when you grow up in a toxic Asian household, you are gonna feel so unloved. And I just want to reassure people out there that there are people out there that are gonna love you that you just haven't met yet.
Three, two, one, yeah!
After leaving the corporate 9-to-5 grind, I became the boss of my own spiritual business, helping others explore and navigate the human experience from insight, wisdom, and lessons learned along the way. Today, I help aspiring spiritual entrepreneurs gain the confidence to share their gifts with the world. Welcome to the Happy Healing Shop podcast. I'm your host, Victor NguyenBui, and each week we'll dive into incredible stories of strength, resilience, and transformation. So, if you are ready for some serious breakthroughs, laughs and tears, and stories that will inspire you, you are in the right place, my friend. Let's get started. Kristina, actually, you brought a topic I'd love to speak for you to share. I remember telling you that someone told me, "Oh, I wish I grew up with Asian parents because my Asian friends seem to have parents that are willing to help them succeed, whether it's paying for a master's degree, whether it's like helping them with their house payment or their car payment. Like it just like that's nice that they're able to do that for you because not a lot of parents do that." And I'd like to share what you told me.
Yeah. So I guess when someone says they wish they had Asian parents because of that perceived financial and material support, it reflects a really narrow understanding of the Asian experience. And to lump us all into one group is kind of mind-blowing to me. Not every family is the same. But that perspective, while well-intentioned, it oversimplifies, right, the dynamics of Asian families. So you're talking about, financial support versus emotional costs. That's what we talked about earlier. And while many Asian parents might prioritize and invest heavily in their child's education and future securities, this often comes with really high expectations and pressures. I don't know. I don't know if they could really grasp the meaning of that. Success is not just encouraged, but it's often expected and leading to like emotional and mental stress that is really crippling us, I think. And I think that the investment in children's education and future is rooted in cultural value systems that prioritize family duty and collective success over individual pursuits is another one. So while it can be great and advantageous, it might also be limiting us with our personal freedom and autonomy, right, for that person or for that child. And as mentioned earlier, there was that, Asian cultures are sometimes perceived as less expressive or open with their emotions, especially compared to like Western cultures. So while a child might receive financial support, they might yearn for that connectedness, that warmth, that emotional validation, right? That we will never get that until it's often too late when they're already old and we're reflecting back on where did things go wrong. But that emotional validation is key. And I mean, for whoever said that, it's common for people to idealize an aspect of other cultures without fully understanding them, right? Their nuances, their intricacies, their challenges that are inherent in them. So unfortunately, I don't think their perception is reality. And you're giving a lot up for that financial security.
Let's give a little glimpse to listeners on growing up here. How did your parents discipline you? I got spanked with different things. So usually a stick that was found in the backyard, kneeling on rocks,
and saying, pray to God to forgive, because you committed a sin or something like that. Kneeling on rocks is very memorable, though.
I had to kneel too, but facing the wall. Yeah, my mom didn't hit me. My uncles sometimes slapped me if I spoke up, and but I don't remember being spanked after third grade. But spanking was a part of it, but after third grade, I don't remember any.
Yeah, I didn't have to man, I didn't have to kneel on rocks. That's rough. But yeah, likewise I did kneel on like the wall, did get spanked. I think at some point my parents were like, spanking's actually not as like impactful, so they said and started like hitting us with like different things. And like I remember some of them be like chopsticks on the hand, or like there's like this back scratcher we had, this wooden back scratcher. I hated that back scratcher to be hanging up on the wall, and that'll be the object of use, tool of use for repercussions or punishment. There's a lot of that. And of course, since I grew up in a household of mostly boys, I have one older sister, and me and my older brother, me and my younger brother, mostly boys. So we did play like games and stuff like that. So it was always just like, oh, you can't like play games. Stuff like hanging out with friends was already out the door, so we never had to worry about that being a punishment because we never had the opportunity. And I think that was mostly it. A lot of praying too. A lot of like, again, like time out in the corner, be like this like alarm timer thing. They would crank it, and depending on like the severity of it would be the duration of it. And yeah, I'd just be like on the corner. Yeah, I think that was pretty much the repercussions or punishments or ways of growing up.
Mine was the belt. I love how we're all sharing stories of trauma together. It's so funny.
I'm trying so hard not to laugh. I guess that's
I'm
a way to
laughing in
cope.
the background because it's just so relatable. I actually remembered talking back whenever I had physical punishments. I knew that it was coming for whatever reason. I talked back a lot when I was a kid. I mean, you're a child, it's expected. But I just remember your father, your parent would tell me actually, like, go up, stay in the room, lay down, and the entire time you're just waiting for it. So the suspense is building, and that belt is coming. And I just was stealing myself up, and down and whips it goes. And I remember turning around to my dad and I said, that didn't hurt. Oh boy. Oh my gosh. He was so angry. He did it a second time and I wailed. I said, I'm never going to do that again. Talking back part, but I will do whatever it is I did before. But yeah, I think it came down to, in the younger days, it was mostly discipline was physical, and transitioning to more psychological tactics, like shaming, guilting, and even gaslighting as I grew. I believe I believe this is just mirroring traditional parenting approaches that Asians do that often undervalue children's understanding. Kids are really keen observers, and they make a sense of their understanding of the world around them based on adult behavior. So they're always watching you. They're always learning from you. And if you want to raise happy, kind, and thoughtful kids, I mean, you better embody kindness yourself. And I just don't believe that type of discipline, whether it's psychological or physical, is appropriate.
Yeah, I was spanked when I was a kid with slippers, if you will. But it was always funny because like my dad would be doing it. My mom never did it. My dad would do it, but then I think there was a time when I was trying to be clever. Like he would try to spank me, but then I would just like try to avoid it by like going like that. So I was trying to escape that, if you will. But like with my mom, I remember one time like there was like a parent teacher conference, and I think like I didn't complete an assignment or something like that, and she was really upset with me. And then I think like once we got into the car, I think she just started like, I don't remember if she like threw stuff at me but she, of course, they were in the front seats. I was in the back, and I just remember her like reaching back and just like trying to hit me before. But it's kind of like what we've all touched on here, right? It's all physical abuse. But yeah, that's how I was reprimanded when I was a kid.
Sorry, I'm losing my composure over here because all I can imagine is like a little version of us being like, "Ha, you can't hit me," avoiding it. So that visual is playing in my mind right now. I was about to say, I was like wondering, like, did someone not get the sandal? But okay, Shaun, you just finished that off with the slipper, belt, stick, a carved stick for Victor because it's known as a back scratcher, and the hand with Thuy. God. So Kristina and Thuy, I've spoken with other females about this, and there is an underlying sense like that females are treated differently in the family. So could you recall any stories of how you were spoken to differently or even treated differently from the male counterparts in your family or even the male siblings?
So my brother got it easier, and whatever he did, they encouraged it. But for me, it wasn't the same. And they always said like, "Oh, you're too easy on her." From my uncles to my mom, there was definitely like any type of activity that wasn't on school, then it wasn't encouraged. But if my brother did it, it was fine. So there's definitely a judgment, a preference to the males, and I just had to do what I needed to do, though, to sacrifice for the family and do things for the family, and always take care of my brother.
I'm getting that sense with my mother, actually, as her parents are getting older. She is the eldest as well out of 5 children, and she's taking a lot of that burden herself, as a caregiver, someone who would financially support them, is kind of their retirement fallback, just in case something bad happens, and it's tiring her out. I could see that. I think in my family, there is an instinct to protect, and often leads to a point of isolation for women. The expectations from the older generations was to be, well educated, be ladylike, demure, ideally marry a prosperous white man. I was quietly rebellious, so I chose a different path. Shaun is my husband. So, but I'm pleased to say that there's a progression of empowerment within my family lineage, which each generation of women having more opportunities and less limitations as they go on. But in my own quiet way, I veered off that script. It's heartening to see how, with each generation, women in my family keep growing stronger, like seizing more opportunities and shaking off all those old constraints as best as they could at, the timeline that they were in. So it's like we're making out for the paths not taken by the women before us. My grandma would sneak away from school and play hooky to watch movies being made and filmed. And she would even be offered leading roles for next movies, and she would run away because she didn't want to upset her family. They had no idea that she was running away from school and such. But what could have been, right? Based out of that fear, expectations too. And my mom was a force of nature as well, in her early years, joining a really renowned fraternity, all boys in college, known for producing presidents and national leaders and generals. And so they too had the rebellious streaks, but the era that they lived in wouldn't allow them to be other than their gender role, right? And that's unfortunate, but somewhere they, reined themselves in, and I think they're manifesting who they should be now. Unfortunately, it's much later, but they're realizing now, right? So I'm not an actress or a national leader, but I find myself capable of what can be.
Yeah, I was at a dog birthday party, and me and two other female Asians happened to be in the kitchen, and somehow the discussion of this came up, and they all kind of agreed the fact that they felt frustrated on how their family members or even their boyfriends don't understand, because we were kind of all touching on how it feels like an extra layer of oppression or feeling caged, or the fact that we don't get away with things like what Thuy said compared to our brother or our boyfriends, right? And kind of like that lack of freedom. So it feels like we're essentially being discriminated and not treated as equally independent individuals. And also, I know I've had people tell me that they've had the feeling of guilt as a daughter to move away from their parents, because I think in a lot of our cultures, it's expected for the girl to take care of the family, to be the caregiver, which is already such a huge, huge ordeal. It takes up a lot of mental space. So, but the fact that it falls on our shoulders, or like, for example, my brother lives close to my dad, but yet I was the one that always had to take care of everything when my mom passed away and fly 5 hours back home because he wouldn't do anything. But my dad didn't say anything about it. He just kind of, it's like accepted that, okay, Trangs or the female is going to be the one taking care of it, right? And also, I think with all that on top of just trying to live life, it feels really difficult trying to live our life while also trying to fight this feeling of unfairness and pressure on top of it. What is something you're proud about your culture and something you're not proud about your culture?
I think grit is a big one for our culture. And then also our adaptability. And really, a lot of us, I find now, are learning to express our creativity and finding that way in our own path. And so we're paving the new way for so many things. And really, our survival technique. I know that we're all of us, we're hustlers, and just the ability to thrive. And then now seeing that where like we want others to thrive as well. And so I think like we're really growing, and I think it makes us more compassionate. What I'm not proud about our culture is somehow, like, because of that whole passing down of the discrimination and judgment, I have to catch myself with it. And then really I have to focus on that money is not everything, and the experiences, and then learning to talk about the emotions and teaching my daughter.
Yeah, I think the great one was really good. Out of these that answer, but I think something else I would say it would be kind of like resourcefulness. So like I'm sure like everyone's grandparents or great grandparents, like they would use everything and make it into something. Like the fact that like the amount of different containers we have out of like peanut butter jars or like containers, or we're using like literally everything has a purpose, and I think that's really cool. Obviously our older generations came from a more just a poor environment, and so they had to be very resourceful. And I think that's really cool. Moving it now, like how like I would feel wasteful about some stuff. So I think that was a really cool thing. I think I like about my culture. I think something that I think is so you kind of mentioned too was just the idea of like the focus on money. I think right now like you can still see it with even like young Asian Americans in like in the US. It's the focus is still on money, right? Your status is tied to your money. If you don't have money, you don't have status. You don't have status, you don't have respect, and it trickles down from there. So I think like because money is so important that we really forget the idea of like healthy relationships and like and like just the idea of like a healthy mental state and like all those other priorities. I think are really aren't prioritized when so always the focus is on money. So I think that's something that I don't like about my culture.
Yeah, I agree with what you both said. Grit is a good one. Love the work ethic. I think, yeah, that's part of the reason why I would say I have a good work ethic. My professional life and of course just in life in general. I think another one is just uh, the importance of family. I know that my dad's side they love to spend time with one another, and again just enjoying each other's company, just having a good time, whether it be over the holidays, birthday, what have you. So it's just really spending quality time with one another. The things that I don't like about my culture is it's already some of them were previously mentioned as well. The racism, the focus on money, and also it's just like the comparisons, just measuring or comparing you to this person or that person, or you just got to keep up with everyone or whatnot. It's very stressful. It's very unnecessary. Um, but yeah, it's not. They're missing the whole point there. That everyone's life is unique. Everyone has their own way, their own journey. Um, you know, just because they have this or that at this time, whether it be a job or a car or a house, doesn't mean that you're behind.
Yeah, there isn't anything that's already been said to be true. So the thing I could add is I'm proud of despite any natural disaster or challenge, we just end up still being happy people. The memories of being in the Philippines is that there's a typhoon or tsunami coming and kids are just outside playing in the water here and standing pools of water and it's raining and it's just people make the best of what they have. They're incredibly resilient, talented individuals, and they have fantastic hospitality. We will accept anybody and love having them over. I guess what I don't like, I think Shaun hit it on the nail there. But in addition to that, I would say is that poverty mentality of having to hoard things, to have to social climb. Like Shaun said, you don't need to. Just be comfortable with yourself. But that's a terribly difficult thing to do, rather. There's also this admiration for Western products and practices or physical features over indigenous ones. I think it's shifted over to Korean standards of beauty now, but while every culture and nation has its own unique beauty, right? I think it's essential to embrace what you've got and celebrate your own. And I don't know if you guys have been following this, but one glance at pages in the Vogue Philippines magazine editions is a testament to this. Like, it fills me with immense joy and hope and self-love, and just reminding me of like the beauty of my own heritage. You guys have to see it. It's phenomenal. And I don't know if they Photoshop them, and if they do, it's very minimal. I mean, these people look old, but but gracefully so. I mean, they are just so gorgeous and true and authentic. And I love the stories and the narrations that they've had in these magazines. So definitely something to look at.
I think sometimes our downfall can be pride. And pride can be great, but it can also be used in a negative light if gone unchecked. So pride in terms of like saving face. Asians love to save face. Can't look bad, can't say sorry, can't admit guilt in front of someone, right? So, and admitting that you're wrong. And again, earlier, like we discussed, women and men are not seen at the same level. However, I think that what you guys mentioned earlier, the sense of community and like Thuy, when you said grit, tenacity, like sometimes people are like, how are you not dead yet? So in terms of community, it's just, let's say something's wrong with your house, it's flooded, whatever. They'll be like, it's okay. I know Uncle Hung. I can call him over to come help you. You know, it's in that sense of like, you might not say I love you, but more of like, I can help you get you back up on your feet. Oh, you just came to America. You can, all 12 of you can live in my basement, you know, something like that. So I think that that sense of like knowing what it feels like to help someone that is in need. What did you wish your parents did differently growing up? If you could tell them, if they're sitting across from me right now, tell them the honest truth with no repercussions, no backlash, no nagging, what would you say to them?
Probably nothing that they haven't heard already. And if it is, well, here it is. What I wish my parents did differently is to understand that there's more to life than achievements and checklists. Like growing up, I felt the pressure to be the best, to meet their really high standards, and to fill the dreams that they had for me. And sometimes I wish they could see that I had dreams of my own. How cliche is that? And desires that might not align with what they envisioned. So if I could tell them anything without fear or repercussion, I think it'd be like, I wish you knew that your love and validation mean more to me than any trophy or certificate I ever had. I want to make you proud, but I also want you to be proud of who I am. I think there's a clear distinction of like, I love you versus I like you. If my mother told me she liked me, I think I would cry. Not just what I achieve. And I wish you took the time to know me more, to hear my dreams, my fears, to understand that I had or have a path in life that I'd like to follow. And most of all, I wish you knew that your emotional support would have been more valuable to me than any material gift, I think is what I would send to her, my mother.
Kristina, you're making me cry over here.
It's the truth. Oh no, I see tears. It's okay. Because it's true. It resounds with many people here.
So my mom's kind of a tough ass. And we had a conversation about this about 3 weeks ago. And it was after a family reunion. And it was because my little girl, she loves to put on these shows, like these talent shows. She's 6 years old and she's very vibrant. And my mom, she always like tried to keep me humble, you know, and she's like, oh, she's just too much. She's too much. And I heard her saying that, and it triggered things in me because that's what she said to me. And that was because she had 2 kids and she was a single mom, you know, and didn't know English and I was very vibrant and I loved to perform, but then I was too much. So then that's when I suppressed myself. And then that became that I'm not enough. And I didn't want that to be for Isabella. And so then I told her these things without repercussion, you know, and then she just said, oh, you just gotta stop dreaming. And so I just had to do work around that and then come back to it. And I just know that's the way she is. And she doesn't really mean it, but she just doesn't know any other way. And so I have said those, and it's just like layer by layer, and it's going to take more work. And I know that because she's done that now with my other cousin, and she's softened up a lot. But it just takes time, though, for some of those. And some things may never change, but I know that I spoke up. And so it just takes them a while sometimes to accept that. And you just have to accept that they may never, or they'll get it, but then we don't know how to express it.
For me, I wish my parents, I wish they, what is it? Of course, like, you know, right now, if I say something, I wish they would, like, be more be more open. I wish they would be more understanding, and like what what they've said to me, you know, understand like how much that has affected me. I wish it was our house was more of a safe haven where I can come, and of course this applies specifically to my mom. I wish I can come to her um, for anything with no fear or judgment. Um, I wish they would trust me, um, in knowing that I've learned so much from them that I know what I'm doing. I wish they would understand that, um, like I, of course, I don't go and get into trouble or whatnot. They've taught me well. I wish they would understand that, I've learned a lot from them, and that I'm an adult, and I wish they would, of course, treat me like an adult. So I just wish they did that for me, and um, understood it from my perspective.
Yeah, what I would communicate over to my parents would be more so kind of, I wish it was okay for me to express myself and not feel restrictive, not feel like I had to, be careful about how the way I talked. Wish I didn't have to feel like I was always walking on eggshells all the time. Um, I wish too that, again, like my family was a place that was of support, a place of comfort and feeling safe versus being very careful about the way how I will go about things, to where I felt I had to confide in other means versus, of my family or my parents. Um, I wish I was able to talk about how they were feeling, be able to ask them questions about their personal lives and not feel like I would end up somehow in the lecture somehow and somehow lead to a conversation about what I'm not doing right or what I'm still need to improve on. Um, Part of that too, I wish every conversation didn't lead to a lecture. Um, but I also do really appreciative of, just the struggles that they had and what they had to deal with, and still try to raise me to be a good person, someone that can take care of myself. And I feel like now I'm in a position where I'm able to do that. I'm able to show that. But it was a process, and it still is a process. Um, I think, again, just showing my appreciation, but also just wishing that I had more opportunities to grow myself emotionally, and mentally with my family versus having to do that outside, you know. But I'm at least appreciative now that I'm able to slowly introduce that into my family's household and be able to talk about, like mental health and mental awareness, and just being able to talk about our emotions when we previously weren't able to. Um, I think those would be the things I want to talk about. Yeah, to my parents.
Thinking about your younger self, what is something you would tell them knowing what you know now today?
I would tell them, uh, don't get lost in seeking validation. And it's okay to say no. Also, I think boundaries are really important for your well-being. Yeah, you can't be everything to everyone, and that's fine. Don't bottle up your emotions either, or dismiss them just because you think that no one's going to understand. And you'll find your tribe. Not everyone is going to understand or support your path, but you'll find those who do. And surround yourself with those people who lift you up.
For me, I would say it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Whatever's going on, whatever obstacles or issues or challenges you're facing, you will find a way to get through them. And just be, again, very intentional about how you use your energy. Some things just aren't worth it. And even though it might seem like it's really important based off, society, family, parents, whatever, find the things that ultimately bring you joy and happiness and then make you feel better as a person. I think be very intentional with energy, and again, just find the relationships in your life that are worth cultivating, and don't always try to go for something that just isn't worth it, something that it will never receive or return the same, reciprocate the same amount of energy and love that you might want to.
I would probably tell my younger self, you're okay. It's okay to be sensitive. Don't take everything as a criticism. I know this is kind of veering off. And we're trying not to do that, but I heard this podcast from this Vietnamese guy, and it was about the language, like the imperative and the imperfect, and that our parents speak in the imperfect, where the emotions is just what it is. You know, like we didn't go to the beach because it rained, but then the Americans, you know, they say we would have gone to the beach had it not rained. So somehow, if I could explain that to my younger self, so that I wouldn't take everything so harshly, that and not be like so emotional, and be okay with my emotions. That's just the way that my mom expresses things, and it seems like very abrupt, but that's just, you know, this is how she expresses it. She doesn't know any other way.
Going off of what you just said, I wish being sensitive was normalized. You should be sensitive because it teaches people where your boundaries are. And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I wish I could tell my younger self, yeah, like what was just mentioned just now, that it is okay to be sensitive. I've always been sensitive my entire life, and I always thought that crying was like, okay, why are you crying type thing. It's okay to cry. It's okay to express your emotions like that. Especially for men. You know, men, think that they need to be strong, and there's no such thing as crying, and you can't show weakness. You can't, or crying is weakness, or can't show emotion. You gotta be strong no matter what situation presents itself to you. I would tell myself that, you'll be tested many ways in later on in life, but the one thing to keep in mind is to never give up, to keep going, exhaust all options until no options are left. Just keep trying. Know that there are people out there that love you and will do anything to help you, no matter what the situation is. You're not in it alone. And that, it's important to find the right people to have in your life, and to be really picky about who you give your time to. And I've talked to Kristina about this a number of times this past year, but your time is your currency, and currency is really important. And so who I choose to spend time with, that's very important. So I would tell my younger self that, to choose wisely on who you give your currency to.
I just want to add, Shaun, that you reminded me, when you grow up in a toxic Asian household, you are going to feel so unloved. And I just want to reassure people out there that there are people out there that are going to love you that you just haven't met yet. And there's going to be plenty of them. So stick with it and keep going. There's someone out there that's looking for you.
Ooh, that's so
That's
good.
really good.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that. For anyone that's finding themselves in a situation where they are really unhappy at home, where it probably is taking a toll on their mental health, I want to say that it is completely okay to have to set physical boundaries and move away if you need to. I've had a couple of female friends that need to do that. And there was it was difficult because there's, again, shame, guilt for leaving the family, even though they've done all this for you. But in a way, for some of them, their relationships with their parents improved. So And when you leave the family, you end up finding your own path and you end up finding who you are, your individual self. So, last question for this episode is, how does it feel being able to discuss all this?
It's very therapeutic, it's very healing. And then also recognizing that you're not alone, because so many times when you think you're the only one, and yet it's so alone. And when one person heals, it actually heals the collective. And uh, it it's better out than in. Otherwise it becomes harbored and then it becomes a part of a disease or a condition, a chronic condition. And then yeah, so it's very healing just to, and especially hearing it from the males too, because sometimes you think like the women, it's harder on us, but you guys just have it just as bad or just as tough.
Piggybacking off of that, again, growing up in an Asian household, you are ingrained to think that your community is your family. But I think we've established today that it's also outside of it. So I'm really glad to have met you all and sharing your stories, listening to all your struggles and challenges and coming out of it. I think you guys are very brave and I appreciate you guys.
Hey man, that was like my ending spiel. Thanks.
So to the Kristina show.
I will piggyback on what Thuy said, though. It is, in a way, surprisingly cathartic and, yeah, I guess say therapeutic of just because I think everyone was able to beautifully convey different shades of what we were feeling in different stories. Or sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I remember that trauma. I remember that. And being able to, and also I feel very hopeful that people will listen in on this and understand where we are coming from. And also hopefully future parents that they hear this and they realize like, okay, these are ways it affects children growing up and what they have to face. And also maybe people understand us more of like the layers of difficulties and challenges that we had to go through.
Yeah, I think this being able to talk about these topics, I think is very validating and also again echoing very therapeutic. I think it's a transition, but I think we're in a very great transition right now. I guess in our kind of like in the world, having movies like Everything or Everywhere All at Once, or having like even Beef on Netflix, and a lot of different mediums and entertainment that I think is talking about the Asian American experience and kind of the ups and downs we go through and mental health and everything like that. And I think it's awesome. And thank you, Trang, for giving us the opportunity for everyone to talk here. And again, I think it's really big to have platforms that talk about this kind of stuff, especially for people that may not have the opportunity, right? Like maybe some people might be in communities that are deep within, the trenches where you can't really talk about this stuff. And I think having these opportunities and having these discussions and, oh my God, Thuy, I love I'm not sure if you can see on the camera, but like, yeah, she has like the
Third
eye, the third
eyeball.
eye. But I think
I
it's
love
just
that
awesome.
movie. It's one of my favorite movies. And after I watched it, I got googly eyes. I put googly eyes on everything. You should see my house right now. Like it's like on my computer, and it just helps me to be creative and laugh at everything too. And it strengthens my intuition. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No worries.
I just had an eye here, so I thought I'd put it on.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. I just think that in general, this is a great movement, I think, and it's something that, that isn't talked about enough. And I'm glad we're doing these things to kind of push it out there.
I echo what everyone has said here. Yeah, very therapeutic. And most importantly, I hope the listener out there, really this helps them out. That yeah, they're not alone. And that, kind of like what Kristina had said, that you're all of us are in this together. Y'all are brave. But definitely again, thanks Trang for setting this up for us to talk about our own personal experiences and to hear everyone else's as well.
Well, thank you all for sharing your very vulnerable stories. And as again, like we need to share our stories because people need to hear it. It's really important and people need to learn it. And in a way, that allows us to be more compassionate, understanding of each other, different cultures, and where we all come from. So thank you again for being on my show.
Thanks, Trang.
Thanks, Jan. Really
Thanks,
enjoyed
Trang.
it.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Wow, wasn't that an amazing conversation? I hope you found what Kristina, Shaun, Thuy, and Victor shared to be insightful and eye-opening to the complex layers of what it was like growing up in an Asian household for them. I'd really like to know, did you find anything surprising at all? And if you enjoyed this episode, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss out on future episodes. And I'd be really grateful if you left me a review over on Apple and Spotify too, as those reviews help other people find my podcast. And remember, the fun doesn't stop here. It continues over at thehappyhealingshop.com. And until we meet again, my friend, always remember to shine your light brightly and to share your story, because you'll never know who it can help, give hope to, or inspire to create a change in their own world. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.